When the first Europeans came to this vast continent, they named it Terra Incognita, the unknown land. At that time, the country was totally devoid of horses. On January the 26th, 1788, a stallion, 5 mares and a foal were brought to the colony on a ship of the British Crown. Both men and horses had to adapt to the unmerciful climate and the rigors of the bush. Together they opened up Terra Incognita and renamed it Australia. Today, horses are an integral part of Australian life, and in a number of high schools, equine studies are part of the syllabus.
Okay, guys, just come in here for the moment, please.
Stacey is 15 years old and passionate about horses. Although she lives over 200 miles away, she prefers to continue her studies at this school, where as a boarder, she can keep her horse with her.
Yeah, we came here because we got home really late after school when we were at home, so we couldn't ride horses. So here you just get off school at 2:40 and just go and ride the horse. So it's pretty good. And as well as the equine studies course. They only started this course here this year. So later, I'd like to do something like a trainer of Appaloosas or something, some different horses, not just plain horses. And I suppose stud farm or something like that. Just something different, nothing normal.
The heart of a horse works exactly the same as the heart of a human, okay? So you'll hear 2 beats. You only count one to hear the 2. The boom boom, you only count 1, okay? They'll have C plus B is equal to A.
Why don't you get that thing then?
Sorry?
Why don't you get it's too long?
What do you think, if they've got too long a neck here, what might happen?
You just be overweighted, literally.
Yeah, if they're not, like I was saying before, if they're not balanced, if they've got too much neck, then sometimes they get on the forehand and it's hard for them to round up and to use themselves correctly. Okay?
I go home every 2 weeks because this is the promise Mum made to us when we first came here. So we go home every 2 weeks for the weekend and stuff like that. Horses go home every holiday. And Mum is coming today to pick us up.
Stacey's home is a few hours' drive away in the snowy mountains region of southeastern Australia. She's here for the Easter vacation, which in the southern hemisphere falls in autumn. Stacey's family own a ranch, known in Australia as a cattle station. In country areas, the cattle are referred to as stock. So Stacey's father is a stockman, and his horse a stock horse.
Oh, those steer, we only want the cows.
No, it doesn't matter.
Hey!
The first horses to be introduced into Australia included a variety of breeds, from English and Spanish thoroughbreds to South African ponies and purebred Arabs. These mixed origins eventually produced the renowned Whaler, which in the 19th century was considered the world's finest horse. In the 1950s, the quarter horse was imported from America. The Australian stock horse is a descendant of these different breeds.
Oh, we have 300 or 400 cattle. Calves are big enough to be by themselves now, so they don't need their mums. And the cows have got to be pregnant again, so they can have new calves and stuff like that. And so they're probably going to be sold or killed or something like that. They blind one. Tim.
Stacey's father owns 10 horses.
We use the horses because they're more quiet, and to go out in the bush, we always use the horses for the cattle work.
Stacey's best friend, Sarah, is her nearest neighbour. But Australia's a big country, and Sarah lives some 30 miles away. This morning, the two friends are starting their training for one of the region's most important equestrian events, in which they'll be participating for the first time, as it's restricted to riders over the age of 15.
No, I don't think I have a chance to win the festival. This year's probably more of a practice year, so I can know what to expect for next year. Trying not to come last.
Put your hobbles on your hooks first.
Yep. Yeah.
Sarah's father, Bob, is on hand to help the girls train for the pack horse event.
Set up like that, or could it be all over the place?
No, they generally have it pretty well set up for you.
This is the first time Chance has ever been packed, probably, so we don't know what's going to go on. But she should be right.
Nowadays, there's not many horses experienced at this. So, because it's not used all the time, it's only used by a few people. Yeah. Don't rush too much. Just drop everything off your saddle. There you go. There you best one. I'll walk around, you roll your swag. They are quite heavy.
There you go. What we're practicing for here is called a pack horse, and it originates from in the olden days when they wanted to go up into the mountains where they couldn't take vehicles. They could take the horses up, and the horses could go anywhere, and they'd pack all their gear on it, like their clothing and their bedding and their food and anything they needed for the horses, and stay, I don't know, however long they needed to stay. There you go. She's used to it. She's not afraid of it because she's used to it, I suppose. I learned to use the stock whip when I was probably young because they're really old and like ancestors used them lots for cattle work and that. The hardest part for me in the competition would definitely be the whip crack. The easiest part will probably be the cross country because we do jumping at Pony Club, and whereas a lot of the other competitors don't do much jumping, so they're not used to it.
Yeah, that was pretty good, girls. Just as you're getting better as you went on, just keep riding them right up to the jump.
At this time of year, Australian stockmen spend almost the entire day outdoors and only go home to sleep. Sarah and Stacey like to spend their lunchtime break with their mothers.
Go in the you competition. Yeah, with our old dude. Said, "You all right?" And then just kept going because she couldn't hold the horse up.
We've done a lot of riding since from a young age. Probably come from a family that's had experience with horses at least one generation back. The type of knowledge they need probably can't be picked up just from one generation. They really need a parent or a grandparent to teach them it from a young age. Okay, righto. Side pass that way first. A little bit more. Righto, give him a pat. Bring him back this way. And back up. My family originally arrived in Australia about 1880, I think, from England, and that was into northern New South Wales in the Moree. My grandfather then came to this area here in 1906 to work on a cattle station just upriver from here a little bit. He was there for about 10 years and then became manager from our property, our present property.
The British Crown annexed Australia following the loss of their American colonies. In the early years, this Antipodean El Dorado functioned as a convenient penal colony. But then gold was discovered, and the population rapidly increased. The bush had to be cleared to breed cattle to provide food for the new settlers. Horses became indispensable. Small villages sprang up, but the stockmen generally preferred to live in simple shacks, much like the one in which Stacey's grandfather once lived.
This old house is called the Old House, and it's where my dad lived when they first came and bought this farm. It was all trees then. So you still can get electricity and stuff like that. So we're hoping that someone would move over there. One of us three would move over there, but it hasn't worked yet because there's no TV. I have to cut her mane again.
The day of the competition is drawing near. Assisted by her young brother, Stacey spruces up her mare Chance.
Most people wash their horses because they're going to an event or a show, but with horses like stock horses and horses just for around here, you don't really wash them that much unless they're really dirty. Like Shelley over here gets really dirty from rolling and everything. Cut a mane.
Yeah.
So we shoe them often because these horses we use them a lot on the road when we're at school and stuff like that. So they get shoed every 6 weeks.
The festival is held in the small township of Corryong. It begins on the Friday with a parade and a moving ceremony in memory of one of the township's pioneers, Jack Riley. In the 1880s, Jack Riley went down in legend after spending several days in the mountains, chasing and finally tracking down a magnificent stallion. His adventure was recorded for posterity in The Man from Snowy River, a stirring poem known by all Australians, and which symbolises the courage and determination of the early settlers who tamed the bush.
While he swung the dreaded lash, they saw their well-loved mountains full in view, and they charged beneath the stockwhip with a sharp and sudden dash, and off into the mountain scrub they flew. Then fast a horseman followed, with a gorgeous, deep and black, resounded to the thunder of their tread, and the stockwhips woke the echoes. The Man from Snowy River is a household word today, and the stockmen tell the story of his ride.
Story that I tell you is hard to be believed. The foxes think they own the place while pigs and goats roam free. There's feral cats and dogs and deer creating merry hell. Now they want to kill from our heritage as well. So run, Brody, run.
The first horses were brought here by sea at the end of the 18th century. Many of them ran off into the bush and turned feral. Known as brumbies, Australia's wild horses still roam the outback in their thousands.
Run all over these hills. You were good enough for banjo, and you're good enough for me. And you belong in these hills. And you belong in these hills.
In our own way.
The day of the competition has finally arrived.
Oh, got to get back to work.
Hey, do you want to put that breastplate through the gap?
Yeah.
These are all my strappers here. My friends from school. Katie, Tegan and Courtney. So I bring them all to help them strap and for emotional support. And it's her birthday.
The Man from Snowy River Bush Festival attracts competitors from all over Australia. Around 80 adults and youngsters compete in the 3-day festival. Stacey is number 61. Sarah, number 51. Their fathers both help in the organisation of the festival, so have very little time to give their daughters last-minute advice before the first of the events, the whip-cracking contest. In this challenging competition, Sarah must not miss any of the 10 different targets. Sarah completes her run, and then it's Stacey's turn. Stacey misses the last target, but both girls obtain good scores.
What did he say to you out there?
Next out on course will be Gus Rose from Nimidabel in New South Wales, riding a horse called Kidra's Passion, competing in his first challenge since the year 2000. He's a grazier.
Stacey is somewhat apprehensive of the cattle driving contest, as everything depends on the choice of calves.
Horse experience was pack riding around Mount Clout.
Whatever you do,
Don't miss the thing.
ride your horse through the thing.
Wouldn't it be easy with cows?
Got a paper one out. We'll have a look when they put yours in. I'll pick them out for you.
The contest involves driving 3 calves through 3 different gates in a maximum time of 4 minutes. Stacey has had plenty of experience driving cattle back home, but here in the festival atmosphere, the calves are excited and extremely difficult to muster.
On course we have Stacey Carkeet. She's a junior rider from Baringamar, just down the road. Riding a horse called Chance. She's a first-time junior competitor. A student, she competes at Gymkhana's Pony Club and Equestrian Expo events.
3 lawyer.
Hey, Stacey, and happy birthday. It's your birthday today, I believe. Well done, Stacey. You did a good job.
The first gate, you opened it and then you drove through it. You should have come back.
People have done that.
Oh, you're right then. You did well.
The cow. Yeah.
During the festival, Stacey, Sarah and their friends are camping in vans. Their horses sleep in the open air. It's Stacey's 16th birthday, and to celebrate, there's pizzas and ice cream on the menu.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Stacey. Happy birthday to you.
I'm your favourite brother. I got you lunch.
And as a special birthday treat, a superb rodeo. Saturday, the second day of the festival. There's a growing crowd of spectators for the bareback riding event, a contest that calls for a great deal of skill.
Rarely causes any problems, however. Last couple of fences over on that side.
At the first obstacle, Stacey comes within a hair's breadth of disaster. Then, responding to her mistress's commands, Chance behaves perfectly and remains in place.
We may be a couple of minutes late, but as soon as the last competitor has completed the course, would that competitor please get somebody to...
In her favourite event, the whip-cracking contest, Stacey puts on an excellent performance. Some of the other contestants aren't nearly so brilliant.
Junior competitors, you may take one person with you.
Lord Tom Berry's having all sorts of problems now at 6. See the cluster right down. Poor Jack, I think I've got to get over it, but he's been around again.
The cross country is Sarah's favourite, and she rides with confidence and skill. Sarah takes out first place in the juniors event. Stacey is much less sure of herself as Chance occasionally refuses the jumps.
I got clear in the cross country. She jumped everyone. That's because it took a lot to get her going, but she ended up doing it very well, and as you probably heard me, I was yelling at her the whole time.
Over 4.
I'm very relieved that it's finished because it's over and done with, but I had fun doing it. So it was a good experience too.
Sunday, the third and final day. While waiting for the results of the juniors competition, the 10 top adult riders compete in the Wild Horse Rodeo. The overall winner of the festival and this year's Man from Snowy River is number 15, Jason Leach. Neither Sarah nor Stacey win the juniors competition. This is expected, as no one ever wins the first time they participate. But they both performed well and can expect to get good results in future competitions. Perhaps one of them will be the first female to win the festival and to be named the Woman from Snowy River. Meanwhile, the two friends take full advantage of their last few days of vacation.
Once I finish school, I'd like to go out somewhere, travel the world, something like that. I'd like to live like here when I'm older, just even though there's 3 of us to take over, but I'd love to live here.